Well, hello there, Richmond County residents. It's Celeste coming to you from the Senior Center Without Walls for Richmond County with our 8th episode of Age-Friendly Community Conversations. This is a program that we started a few months back. And for those viewers that are tuning in for the first time, what is an Age-Friendly Community Conversation program all about? Well, as you know, Seniors Take Action Coalition has been promoting age-friendly communities for the last number of years. And one of the most important features of an age-friendly community is getting communication and information out there to older adults. And we know that a lot of older adults don't have access to the internet and are not technically savvy. And we also know that a lot of them watch Tallil Community Television. So we've decided to start working in partnership with Tallil and bringing a lot more programming to you through television, because we know that many of you are watching the program. So in previous episodes, I've interviewed people from our community and organizations that are providing really important services to older adults. And by doing that, they help to promote an age-friendly community. So today I have a new guest, and his name is Kuli Malhotra. I'm going to introduce him a little bit more in a few minutes, but you can see he's with Bereaved Families Nova Scotia. And I'm really, really thrilled to have Kuli with us today. Kuli and I met several months ago, and we've been having a lot of conversations back and forth about ways that we can support folks in Richmond County with issues around grief support. And he's going to talk a lot more about that in a few minutes. But I did want to mention the importance of grief support as it relates to an age-friendly community, because it's one of those essential things that is needed to provide people with the necessary community support and access to services. It also is really important to ensure that people feel as though they're socially participating and that they feel socially included, because grief can be a very lonely place, and it is key to an age-friendly community. So as I mentioned, age-friendly communities play a crucial role in supporting older adults who experience grief, and by providing social connections, resources, and a sense of belonging. And these communities will help seniors feel more supported and will help to reduce the social isolation that may be brought about as a result of grief. We know that the death of a close person can be very stressful, but we also know that it's becoming more and more common later in life, and that older adults experience bereavement more so than any other population group. So we also know that death is often associated with aging and vice versa. And we also know that for many people, there's a fear of death, and there's a fear about talking about death and grief. So we thought it was really important to bring Kuli on with us today to talk to us a little bit about grief and about the services that they offer, because we know that grief and bereavement support is crucial to an age-friendly community, because it directly impacts the well-being of many older adults, but also impacts the well-being of the community at large. So without saying any more on the subject, because we have somebody with us today that knows a lot more about it than I do, once again, I'm really pleased to have Kuli join us. And Kuli is the project lead with an organization called Bereaved Families Nova Scotia. So Kuli, thanks for joining us today. We're really pleased to have you on board. And I'm sure the viewers are going to really appreciate hearing what you have to share with us today. So maybe you can start off by talking a little bit more about what is Bereaved Families Nova Scotia?
Sure. Well, thank you, Celeste, for that lovely introduction. And I'm super excited to be on with you today, especially in our relationship with working together to support grief in Richmond County. And I'm looking forward to the work together with the Seniors Action Coalition. So what does grief look like in Nova Scotia, right? I think we all ponder that question amongst all the organizations and people that are involved in it. So let me go back a little bit. I think it would be fair to say that 1 in 3 Nova Scotians struggle with mental health challenges. That number is probably closer more to 40% now. And over
Mhm.
the last, say, about 15 years or so, that number has constantly grown. So, in other words, more and more people are looking for ways and means of support within community and within the province at large to support grief. So then let me take you to where we come in. So Bereaved Families in Nova Scotia has been around since 1990. So we've been around for a long time as a not-for-profit in Nova Scotia.
Mhm.
And our core focus is to support those that are grieving the loss of a loved one. So I hope
Mhm.
that answers your question with related to where we are, or where we're coming from. We follow an international calling, I guess, or a model, if you will, that's out there, which basically saying that we have less and less community-based grief supports available as people in
Mhm.
general are getting busier with their lives. So the old
Mhm.
structure of family support or neighborhood support has kind of disappeared. And so there's been more of a need to have a bit more of a structure to it. So what do we really do? What we do is offer peer support-based programs. That's one of our mainstreams for communities at large. And our ultimate goal is to build capacity back again, because
Mhm.
ironically, it was there 50 years ago, to build it back again in the communities so that those communities then have the expertise and the knowledge to be able to support grief within the communities. One of the largest components of this is working with seniors because seniors typically have the largest segment of the population
Mhm.
around needing grief support. And,
Mhm.
there's a lot of isolation, especially in rural communities, but at large in Nova Scotia, where seniors find themselves with no support at all. And so
Mhm.
they lean into our healthcare system, which is already inundated, as you know. And
Mhm.
the healthcare system doesn't really have anything at what we call the tier 1 or 2 level, which is at the community level to support individuals that are.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting because as you had mentioned, like years ago, communities would come together, and there would be a whole kind of tradition around supporting people through grief. And we've kind of gone away more and more from that. Like it tends to be more of an individual thing. And as you mentioned, we have a lot of older adults, particularly in Richmond County. 46% of the population are 55 and above. So we know that inevitably we're all going to kind of experience personal grief. But you mentioned peer support or a peer model. Can you elaborate a little bit more about what that means for those people that are not entirely clear about that?
Absolutely. So the typical model in the healthcare system is to support folks either through clinical psychology or at the level where it's extreme cases directly through healthcare.
Right.
Um, However, those spots are very limited. We have just very limited resources to be able to support that in the healthcare system. So what the peer support model does is looks at expertise, or individuals that have a lived loss. So if I
Mhm.
have lost somebody in my life and I've gone through that experience, yet I have other assets, if you will, in terms of being able to provide that support. So if I have the knowledge, if I have the know-how, and I can learn the rest of it. So the idea around the peer support is similar to an AA group, right? It would be Alcoholic Anonymous or any other peer support group where people come together and you'd have a facilitated approach, but it's a conversation among individuals that have
Mhm.
had loss. And going back, so that's death really is probably the most natural part of all our lives.
Mhm.
That,
Mhm.
there's so much stigma attached to people talking about death.
Mhm.
And so the peer support model allows for those conversations to happen in a fairly loose way, but also with a bit of a structure and a science behind that, so that we can try to provide support to folks that are grieving. But largely, it also, I think, in the context of supporting seniors and individuals that need that the most vulnerable, the most vulnerable populations.
Mhm.
I think that's the most meaningful way that they engage in historically. And as you know, technology is a big piece, but that can become a challenge based on location, based on
Mhm.
right skill set change over time. So we find that the peer support group model has been working with our organization for 40 years. And I
Mhm.
mean, we've helped over thousands move through grief. Our last year's numbers, which were the highest, were about 1,300 folks supported across Nova Scotia with
Right.
peer support model type of program.
Yeah, so thanks for sharing a little bit about that, Kuli. I know I can speak firsthand that I actually experienced some of my own personal grief last year and was able to take part in one of the programs that was offered through Bereaved Families Nova Scotia. I don't mind sharing that. So I did take part in one of the 6-week Living with Grief programs, and that resulted in my interest in wanting to become a peer support facilitator. So we'll talk a little bit more about that and what that's going to look like coming up. But what is your role in the organization? And tell us a little bit more about members of the team. Like, you are a not-for-profit charitable organization, so you have a board and then you have some staff team.
Yes, so we are a team of 4 people, and that's very new, and I'm super excited to share that because to give you some context, about 5 years ago when I first started with the organization, we were literally one person, point 0.5 plus point 0.5,
Wow.
operating maybe about 4 or 5 programs and supporting about 100 to 150 individuals. The need has been so strong that over the last 5 years, we've gone from 150 folks supported, as I was sharing with you earlier, about
Mhm.
1,300, and our projection is around 2,200 people that will need that support in the coming year. So we've
Mhm.
been ramping up the number of programs. So to quickly share with you a little bit about the programs and type of, and I think we missed that conversation earlier. In the peer support model, we have different streams of programs. So we have our the base stream or our core stream is called general grief programs. And
Mhm.
in that, we have what we call monthly support and shares, where a peer group would get together. It's a 2 hour session. Usually happens in the evening, but it's flexible. We have facilitators that we train for that. Our team of facilitators is now at about 60 plus across Nova Scotia. So that's where the capacity is. And that's continuous every year. We're adding about 20 facilitators to that team.
Mhm.
Outside of that, we have a training a grief and training coordinator who helps do the training for new onboarding of facilitators, and then we have a program administrator that manages, if you will, that whole stream of programs and helping launch those. And then we
Mhm.
have an admin person that does a lot of the intake and dealing with our clients, our participants. All our programs are free. I think it's really important to note that.
Mhm.
That we these are community-based programs. We get funding through different avenues, primarily the government supporting us at the provincial level, but also through our own fundraising efforts. So that general grief stream actually has 10 programs in it. So
Wow.
there's a monthly support and share, and then what we have are 6-week programs. And so the one you mentioned earlier, the Living with Grief program, it's a core program that supports anybody who's had a loss. And
Mhm.
you'd have 2 facilitators, 6 weeks, and every week there is a component of the discussion that involves grief science, an activity or two, and
Mhm.
the rest of it is just discussions and strategies on how individuals cope with grief, and that's a sharing among the peer group.
Mhm. Great. And then what are some of the other programs that you offer in addition
So
to that?
right, so we have so under that 6-week stream we have a loss of a spouse partner. we have loss of a parent, grandparent, we have loss of a child, we have loss of a pet. That's become
Hmm.
it's a trend.
Yeah.
And then we have a unique program that we work, and we work across the sphere with many different partners to deliver these programs. But we also have an adolescence grief program, which was developed in Cape Breton, jointly between Bereaved Families and the Schools Plus system. Uh,
Right.
so that program caters to middle and high school youth. So this stream we call the general grief stream. Then we have a traumatic loss stream. And so under that, we have two new programs that we started 2 years ago, and we work closely with the Roots of Hope and the Mental Health Commission of Canada, Nova Scotia Health to deliver these programs. So that's an 8-week program. It caters to suicide loss, and the traumatic loss program caters to a wider segment of the population, which would be homicide loss, suicide loss, and substance abuse loss. Um,
Right.
and then we have two more streams because remember we were talking earlier about stigma.
Yeah.
And so the deaf cafes, and another stream that we work, to kind of make sure that individuals that have an opportunity to be able to start talking about different aspects
Hmm.
of faith before it even happens. So we
Yes.
find often in that group, we find a lot of seniors engage in that because
Hmm.
there may be questions like, well, I have children, I'm only getting older. How am I going to communicate to them that, it's inevitable that I'm going to die? And so
Yes.
that we can do some family planning or some will planning. So that would be a type of a question. Another one could be that, oh, I have a family member that's going to be, dying or is in that process. And
Yeah.
so, how do we go about their funeral arrangements? So it's a whole gamut of different conversations. Um, so just to follow up on another stream that we have, actually two other streams, but so, okay, somebody goes through a program, we do a journey map with them, and say that a person started at a certain level with their grief, and then by the end of a 6-week or an 8-week program, they've seen progress. So we journey map that through an evaluation tool. But then what? What do we do after? Is there a follow-up?
Hmm.
So we've been working on it and advancing this, but we have a stream called Resiliency and Wellbeing. And so that is to connect people that have gone through these programs or losses through more basic level mental health supports. So you could be doing an art therapy class together. You could be doing yoga
Right.
and meditation together. So we engage with either third parties or facilitators also that we train to work on that stream. Last one that we're super excited to announce, which will launch in September, is a one-on-one support service for
Right.
individuals that are going through our programs. And we found over the years that there's a serious gap because the provincial model only supports the clinical support level. So
Yes.
what
Yes.
happens to somebody who just needs to pick up the phone and speak with, say, an expert in grief to be, just to discuss that in a confidential one-on-one setting. So we're
Right.
starting that service in October.
That'll be great. Yeah, lots of great things happening. So, tell us a little bit about in your mind, Kuli, how do these programs that you offer help to connect seniors and contribute to an age-friendly community? Because as I mentioned at the beginning, there's several components to an age-friendly community, and a huge part of that is connection, social connection, and access to support. So, how do you see your organization and these programs as contributing in that way?
Great. That's a good question. So let's to start, I think our goal, as I shared with you, was to help build capacity within the communities. And so
Hmm.
let me just talk to that angle a little bit. Seniors have knowledge and have wisdom. So what we
Hmm.
want is to engage more seniors getting some of this information and then disseminating it within their communities. And they're always good with that. They're good with volunteerism. We tend to have a lot of seniors
Yes.
engaged in those. So, in terms of determinants of health, as you're talking about, right, around things around outdoor spaces and buildings, transportation, housing, social participation, one of the key components is engaging seniors in the grief conversation through that
Hmm.
social participation. And of course, one of course, as you mentioned earlier, the ability in rural communities to be able to do that is not really there until we actually engage at that local
Yes,
level,
yes,
especially where they may not be able to have access easily to internet, right? Or services that are
right,
that are not easily available. So our goal is certainly to get into those communities, partner with seniors and organizations like yours, um,
hmm,
to start offering more and more of these programs so that they have access, easy access to them, but also so that that becomes a conversation in the community, and
right.
have seniors support that springboarding, if you will, or onboarding and supporting other individuals or other demographics that need grief support.
Well, exactly. And as you mentioned, I mean, I know I can speak firsthand the extent to which older adults in Richmond County contribute back to the community and do come to the table with a lot of experience and knowledge and wisdom. And certainly, if we could recruit a few more facilitators who have been through this experience themselves and really are able to kind of help somebody else kind of navigate their own grief will be a really great outcome that will come about as
Yeah.
so tell us about the program for Richmond County. What's coming up?
Okay, so we're super excited. I guess it'll be the best kept secret for Richmond County because, this is just coming together. And I think next week we'll be posting all the programs. But I'm happy to share that, our two organizations working together will be launching the support and share programs and
Oh,
living with grief programs in the fall. We break our year down into semesters. So basically, we'll have the fall, September to December, and then January to April, and then the summer months. I think we've agreed to do some programming in Arishat, so different places, Lewisdale, and of course, Richmond County at large is quite a big
yes,
area, and it's quite
yeah.
rural. So I'm happy to share that, slowly we're getting some movement in training new facilitators.
Hmm.
So there will be the launch in September for the support and shares that will happen every month, once per month, and there
Hmm.
will be posters that will go out on the exact dates. And so there's Lewisdale, St. Peter's, and I believe
And
Eric,
Airshot, yeah,
right? And then there will be
yeah.
two living with griefs offered in complement to those programs, because I realize that, often people cannot attend the same or be available for the timing that's out there. There are also virtual programs available, just
Okay,
so they complement, that ability for folks that might have missed something. Um, and the other part I guess maybe I should share this right now is that in November we will be training some individuals. There will be some training opportunities for the 8-week suicide loss program. And so
okay.
that will open up some more programs in Richmond County around supporting grief at large.
Great. So we've got three support and shares that are going to be coming up in Richmond County. One that will be in Lewisdale, one in Airshot, and one in St. Peter's. And then we also will be kicking off a Living with Grief program out of Lewisdale starting in October as well. Now, you mentioned two. Is there another one that's happening
Yeah, I think
in
there's
Richmond County?
another one in discussion to have
Okay.
possibly either in St. Peter's or Arishat, and it may also be a French language program. So
Okay.
that's something we're working on, and we're hoping that'll happen. We've put that on our calendar to make that happen.
Okay, that's great. So more on that will be coming in the coming weeks. And as Kuli mentioned, uh, once their once their programs go live, people can go onto their website, Bereaved Families Nova Scotia, and they can register online for those programs. And we'll be promoting them through our various channels as well to let folks know about them. Um, I guess one of the other things I wanted to ask about was if somebody wanted to, like if somebody other than Seniors Take Action Coalition, for example, that's who you're currently working with, but if another community wanted to actually offer a program, um, how would they go about doing that? Like, would they reach out to you and
Absolutely. So
yeah.
we've made sure that these programs are accessible. That's one of our core objectives because it goes
Hmm.
back to building that capacity within the community. So these programs are free, they're available, they're
Hmm.
community-based, community-oriented. And so
Hmm.
so they would reach out to bereaved families and we
Yeah,
would have a conversation and work out a calendar and an approach to that. The key thing that we struggle with, and I think we were talking about that earlier, we touched on it, is getting facilitators, is finding
hmm,
facilitators on a
yeah,
consistent basis because we don't have the kind of funds to be able to pay full wages. So we depend on being able to provide honorariums and covering some expenses to be able to do that. And that certainly is
right.
a challenge for us. So absolutely, the conversation is growing. We are getting more and more
Hmm.
support, and this is why we're able to put out more programs in in different communities all across Nova Scotia. So please, yeah, just reach out to us
Yeah.
and we will begin that conversation.
Yeah, and make sure that I include a slide at the end of the show today with all that contact information. But just for the folks that know, because many people in Richmond County know who I am, they may not know who you are. But when we talked about facilitators, I will be one of the facilitators of the upcoming programs in Richmond County. As I mentioned earlier on, I did the training to become a peer support facilitator, and so I will be one of the two people that you can expect to see if you participate in some of these programs. So, is there anything else you wanted to share with us, Kuli, before we kind of wrapped up our conversation today?
Yes, Celeste, I want to thank you because I think getting the message out and sharing with people especially in our rural communities, is always a challenge. So I think what you're doing is absolutely fantastic to be able to share what's coming up in terms of programming, especially related to mental health.
Hmm.
There are some exciting things happening around the province. I
Hmm.
think one I should just quickly touch on is this concept of developing a Nova Scotia Mental Health Coalition.
Hmm.
Other provinces have this, other countries have it.
Hmm.
And so I think this will serve Nova Scotia well. We've been working on this for a couple of years now. So I'm looking forward to staying tuned with you over the next few months
Yeah.
to talk a little bit about how we can work with our local community partners to support mental health at large, not just related to bereavement grief.
Yeah, and that has been one of the focuses of attention for our organization as well. In fact, in September, I'm taking a week-long program on mental health first aid for older adults through the Mental Health Commission of Canada. So after I've completed that training program, I'll be able to offer mental health first aid for older adults in our communities, which is a one-day program. And we've also partnered with folks in Pictou County who have done some really great work around mental health resilience. And they offer a three-part workshop. So we've also partnered with them to look at maybe trying to offer some of that programming because, as you said, grief is one of the many complexities of mental health, and whatever we can do as an organization to improve mental health outcomes by opening up conversations about mental health and grief and bereavement and death and et cetera, um, overall will contribute to a healthier community. So we're very excited to be partnering with Bereaved Families in Nova Scotia and look forward to having you again on this show, maybe after we've completed our programs and we can talk about what's coming up next. So with that being said, again, one of the many components of an age-friendly community is being able to connect folks so that they don't feel excluded, that they feel as though they're able to participate in programs and that they can access community support and services. And having an organization like Bereaved Families Nova Scotia partner with us is going to allow us to continue to promote an age-friendly community. And until I meet with you again for this is episode 8 that has been so until I meet with you again for episode 9 and bring you somebody brand new to talk to you, I want to wish you all a wonderful day and to thank Kuli once again for joining us.
Thank you, Celeste.